October 3rd, 1992. The Saturday Night Live studio is humming, the cameras are live, but no one knows what's about to happen. Sinéad O'Connor stands alone under a single spotlight. No band, no backup singers, just her voice, delivering a haunting, defiant, a cappella version of Bob Marley's War. Her eyes lock onto the camera lens, calm, unwavering. As the song reaches its climax, she reaches into her jacket, pulls out a small photo of Pope John Paul II, and holds it up for the world to see. Then, she tears it into pieces. "Fight the real enemy," she says quietly. The torn papers fall to the studio floor like ash. A deep, stunned silence fills the room. The audience doesn't move. Behind the scenes, producers freeze. The applause sign remains dark. Within minutes, phone lines across America explode. A single act of protest becomes one of the most controversial moments in television history. Who was this woman, brave or reckless, enough to challenge one of the most powerful institutions on earth live on television? And what truth did she see that the rest of the world refused to face? This is the story of Sinéad O'Connor, the singer who dared to burn down an illusion in front of millions. By 1992, Sinéad O'Connor was more than just a pop singer. She was a global voice of defiance. The haunting intensity of "Nothing Compares to You" had made her an international star, even crowned Rolling Stone's Artist of the Year. But the same passion that fueled her art also ignited her rebellion. To millions, she was an enigma, a shaven-headed Irish woman who rejected celebrity and used her voice as a weapon against injustice. To the music industry, she was unpredictable and dangerous. When O'Connor tore up that photo, she wasn't just protesting the Catholic Church. She was confronting the deafening silence around child abuse, a truth the world was not ready to hear. 9 years before the Vatican would finally admit to the widespread crisis, O'Connor spoke out, and she paid the price instantly. The backlash was merciless. NBC was flooded with thousands of complaints. Religious groups picketed her concerts. At a Bob Dylan tribute show just weeks later, the crowd booed her so relentlessly she couldn't sing. It was fellow artist Chris Christopherson who put his arm around her and whispered, "Don't let the bastards get you down." This wasn't just a scandal. It was a war of belief. On one side, a powerful institution symbolizing faith and tradition. On the other, a young woman who dared to expose its hypocrisy on live TV. And behind her quiet defiance lay a lifetime of trauma, faith, and fury. So how did she become this fearless figure, willing to risk everything for the truth? Sinéad Marie Bernadette O'Connor was born in Dublin, Ireland, a country draped in Catholic tradition, yet scarred by silence. Her childhood was a storm. After her parents divorced, she lived with her mother, a woman her own children later described as violently abusive. In her memoir, O'Connor revealed she was regularly beaten and emotionally tormented. "I never understood what I did wrong," she wrote, "but I knew I was always the problem." At 15, after run-ins with the law for shoplifting, Sinéad was sent to a Catholic-run reform school, part of the now notorious Magdalene system. It was a bleak world of punishment and isolation. Yet, it was here that one kind nun handed her a guitar. That small act sparked the voice that would one day shake the world. Music became her escape and her protest. She wrote songs to process her pain, using melody to speak the truths she could never say aloud. Her lyrics were sharp and spiritual, filled with both religious imagery and fierce defiance, a signature that would define her art. By her late teens, O'Connor's otherworldly voice was impossible to ignore. She left home, determined to turn her pain into something transcendent. Long before fame arrived, Sinéad's war with authority had already begun. Against her mother, against the church, and against every power that demanded her silence. She was about to take her first step into the chaos of the global spotlight. By 1990, the name Sinéad O'Connor was everywhere. Her shaven head and austere stare made her an anomaly in a pop world obsessed with glamour. Then came the song that changed everything, Nothing Compares to You. Written by Prince, the song became Sinéad's haunting masterpiece, shooting to #1 across the globe. The music video, just her face, raw and unflinching, became one of the most iconic images of the decade. When a single tear slid down her cheek mid-song, it wasn't acting. She later revealed she was mourning her mother, who had died a few years earlier. Superstardom arrived overnight. Fame, money, acclaim, everything that should have meant freedom. But for Sinéad, it was a trap. She rejected the industry's demands. She boycotted the Grammys, calling them offensive. She had the US national anthem cut from her shows, arguing art and patriotism shouldn't be forced together. "I'm not here to entertain you," she said. "I'm here to tell the truth." As her music soared, so did her activism. She spoke out against child abuse, imperialism, and the church's deep hypocrisy. The press labeled her unstable. But Sinéad's voice only grew louder. Each protest dug her deeper into conflict with the very institutions she had spent her life escaping. By the time she walked onto the Saturday Night Live stage, the fuse was already lit. The world saw rebellion, but for Sinéad, it was the inevitable explosion of a truth she could no longer bury. To understand her defiance, you have to understand the church that both raised and scarred her. From childhood, religion wasn't guidance. It was power and silence. The violence she endured at home, she later said, was done in the name of God. Her mother's walls were covered in holy portraits, including the same photo of Pope John Paul II she would one day destroy. Her protest came from a place of anguish mixed with faith, a cry not against religion, but against hypocrisy. When she tore that photo, it wasn't just rebellion, it was an exorcism. She wasn't attacking Catholicism, but demanding it face its own sins. She later said she felt the Holy Spirit told her to do it. Her version of war, altered to reference child abuse, wasn't random outrage. It was prophecy. Years before the world would reckon with the church's systemic cover-ups, Sinéad already knew. She had seen the cruelty of the Magdalene laundries firsthand. What she did that night was both a declaration and a warning. Fight the real enemy wasn't aimed at the Pope as a man, but at the system that protected predators while punishing victims. In the years that followed, her faith evolved, but her purpose never wavered. To speak truth, no matter the cost. She wasn't seeking forgiveness. She was seeking justice. The legacy of that one moment on SNL is far greater than the initial outrage. For years, she was vilified and cancelled. But decades later, as the church's abuse scandals became undeniable, public perception shifted radically. Critics and fans came to see Sinéad not as a provocateur, but as a fearless truth-teller who spoke for the silenced long before the world was ready to listen. Survivors of abuse remember her protest as a moment of light in the darkness, a public stand that gave strength to those living in fear. Her career may have been fractured by that night, but her message endured, resonating through generations of artists and activists. As she once said, "I am not a pop star, I am a protest singer." Her voice was too loud for the time, but her legacy is now undeniable. Because sometimes, the biggest acts of rebellion don't just change music, they change the world. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more content that dives deep into the lives of cultural icons. We'll see you in the next one.